Hello and welcome to another edition of the SciShow Talk Show. Today we have in the studio with me my friend and technical director, Nick Jenkins.
Hello.
So today on the SciShow Talk Show, Nick is going to attempt to stump me, and then he's going to tell me something interesting, and then we're going to meet an animal. That's what we do here on the talk show. So, you're going to start with the stumping.
Yes.
What are you going to do to me?
Okay, well, so bear with me here. So do you know what that is?
That's a piece of film.
Yes, this is one frame of 35 millimeter film. So that's one frame. How many of these are there when you go to see a film? How many are there per second?
23.97?
Not really. There's 24.
24. Why does it say 23.97 when I'm exporting in Final Cut?
That's because you're shooting digitally.
Okay.
And there's a whole different thing that we won't get into there. But
24.
there's 24 of those. So here we have 1 second of 35 millimeter film. This is actually from a commercial that would play before the movie. This one is for a soda of some sort.
Yes, it looks like a Coca-Cola.
Yes.
Which is what's in my mug right now.
And this is 1 minute.
Where did you get these?
I'm a filmmaker.
It comes with the diploma.
Apparently. So there's that. But all of this has a point. And the point is, I want to talk a little bit about our brains and how our brains process images. So when we watch these things, when we watch films or even video, we're not watching movement. We're watching the illusion of movement, right? Because we're watching still images back to back. We watch 24 frames of them, or 30 frames, or 60 frames. Some places overseas are actually trying for sports to do like 300 frames as a normal thing, which is a lot of information. So the question becomes, if that works for film, how does that translate to our eyes? So the stump Hank part is, what does the human eye see at in terms of frame rate?
How many frames per second does my eye see?
Yes, or well, more technically, your brain.
Ah, because I guess the brain would be equivalent to an analog, or the eye would be the analog, and then there's like a digital conversion, basically.
Pretty much.
At the back of the retina. I'm thinking of propellers, and how you start to see the propeller go and then it becomes a blur, and then it starts moving backward. And so I feel like from that information you could extrapolate an actual frame rate, but I don't have any idea what it would be. I know that I'm comfortable at 24 frames per second, but I know that you can detect the difference between 24 and 60.
Right.
So between those two somewhere is my guess.
Okay, this is actually a lot more complicated. You might even call it kind of a trick question in some respects. Comparing what a camera does or what a projector does to what our eyes and brains do, it seems like a good idea. It seems like something that would be simple to compare, but actually they work on like almost completely different principles of how they function.
Yes, it's like that episode that we did on brains versus computers, and it was like the brain versus the computer.
Exactly. The way our eyes work is not in a term of click, 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 image, 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 image. It's a constant stream of information coming into us. So it's very, very fast.
Very fast.
Very fast that we actually get the information. Now where the slowdown comes is when your brain has to make meaning out of those images. But that all happens in a steady stream. It's not really like image, 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 image. It's always getting information in different ways, different light, all kinds of stuff, different parameters. You have the straight on view and then you have the peripheral vision. So the question of how many frames per second do we see, and this is a very common question on the internet. A lot of people ask this question, and you get a lot of different answers. And most of the time you see people sort of, well, let's change the question because that doesn't quite work. And the question you want to change it to is actually, how many frames per second does it take to achieve movement in what we're seeing? We sort of arbitrarily came up with 24 frames way back. But it turns out that in order to see movement in a film image, in photographic images, it's about 16 frames per second. That's where we stop.
Right, that makes sense to me. I mean, back in the day on the internet, there would be 15 frame per second videos.
Really?
People used to do that to save information.
Save like bandwidth and stuff?
Huh. Yeah, because there just wasn't enough bandwidth, and so you'd have like 120p videos at 15 frames per second. That was like back in the day.
Man.
If you remember those.
Just make a GIF.
CompuServe. Well, it was when GIFs were hard to download. And sometimes people do make GIFs at a lower frame rate so that they can get them down below 1 megabyte to upload them to Tumblr. But this is making me think of a thing called the second-hand illusion. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I haven't.
But so when you move your eyes, there's a space you don't see the blur. Like if you moved a camera, you'd see this blur across the screen. But when you move your eyes, you don't see that blur. There is information taken out by your brain. Your brain's like, that information is not useful or interesting.
Extraneous.
And so what it does is it keeps your brain only sees that thing. And it stays on there and then transports what you end up on in your consciousness into like, the past.
Right.
And so if you look at a second hand and you catch it at the right time, it will actually stay where it'll stay for longer than a second before it clicks over. And that's the only way that you can like detect this in your brain. And it's crazy that our brains are just doing these things without our permission, and we have no idea.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's not that you didn't see it. Your brain just decided it didn't need the information.
To filter it out. Yeah,
right.
it came to the retina, but then for whatever step down the path. And so probably what I should have answered when you asked this question was, I probably could have, if I thought about it long enough, just said, not relevant. That's what I should have said.
That's what I had for my stump Hank.
And I was pretty much stumped. I should have done better on that one. But I appreciate it. It was very interesting, and I love that you had props. So now we're going to have a better prop, which is something I don't even know what it is yet.
I think we're going to see something big that flies.
Oh, he knew. We have a very special guest here today. Jessi, tell us about this animal.
This is Hara the Harris's hawk. She comes from the desert. She's not going to be found in the northwest up here in Montana. She's going to be found in the deserts of the southern United States, through Mexico, through Central America, all the way down to Argentina, basically, through South America. Any desert, you'll find the Harris's hawk.
So this is why I've not seen this hawk before.
Yeah,
This is not a familiar species. What is that motion?
That little thing she's saying, is there some place that I can fly off to?
Yeah.
She's looking around.
That's just the ceiling.
Not much, huh? So Hara here, let's talk about some of the interesting things that these guys do. They're pretty neat hawks. They're a lot different than other hawks that you might find in the Americas. They look really neat, but it's not what they look like that makes them neat. It's what they do.
It's their behavior.
That's what makes them neat.
Well, the tail feathers seem larger to me. But that might just be because I don't have a lot of experience looking at hawks very close up.
Their tail feathers, maybe it's that white that's kind of highlighting them. She's spreading her tail just a little bit. She's using it for balance. You can see how she can move her tail up and down to help her balance as I move my glove here.
Oh.
That's cool.
Yeah. So let me tell you about their behavior. These guys, so they live in the desert, and there's not a lot to eat in the desert, and the food that they can find, lizards and rabbits and other tiny little rodents and stuff like that, they're pretty smart. They know the game. They're not going to be out in the sunshine during the day, cruising around in the desert. They're just going to get spotted real easy. So they're all going to try and hide. So these guys are hanging out. Now, the first thing that makes them unusual is they hang out in groups. Most hawks, it's either single or it's just their mate that they hang out with. These guys will hang up in like groups of 5. A lot of times it's 1 female, 4 males. And so there's like 5 of them cruising around in the sky looking for food. They can't find anything. So she'll send down a couple of her friends down to the ground. And what they'll do is they'll land on the ground and they will storm into a bush as fast as they can.
Like pack hunters.
And try and flush out anything that's hiding in that bush. So say some mice and a rabbit flush out of that bush, So then Hara's up in the sky and she'll come down and she'll grab a hold of whatever prey she can. Now if it's a mouse, she'll grab it, and she's not going to grab it with her mouth or her beak here. The most dangerous part of a raptor is those talons there. Those amazing feet. You want to show off those feet? There you go. There you go.
Oof.
Amazing talons. You're looking at them too?
She knows what's up.
Yeah. So she's going to grab them with those feet, and she's going to squeeze them as hard as she can. Now, she can actually eat a full-grown mouse in one bite. She can just swallow it on down.
So her co-conspirators aren't going to get a piece.
What she's going to do is she's going to try and hide it from them. She'll hold on to it until it stops breathing, and she's actually going to do this neat behavior where she mantles over it. She'll take her wings, and she'll kind of hide the food as she finished eating it. But if it's a rabbit, say that's the only thing they flush out of the bush, she can't take it down a rabbit herself. rabbit actually would weigh more than she does, even though it might be smaller. So she'll dive down and she'll grab onto the rabbit, and one of her friends will come over and grab onto it too. Maybe even a third friend will come and grab onto it too, and they'll all take it down, and then they'll communally share that meal,
Wow.
which is very unusual
Yeah.
for raptors.
Very much like a
Yeah,
pack.
it's like a pack birds.
Yeah, it's
I've
pretty
never
neat.
even heard of that.
I hadn't either.
They're very, very smart. The other thing that these guys do that's kind of silly is
Oops.
is they do this neat thing with their perching. So in the desert, there's not a lot of places to perch. There's not a lot of trees. So they're going to perch on a cactus, but sometimes it's only one little place for them to perch on top. So one will perch on top, and the other will come and perch on that one's back. The other will perch on that one's back. You'll have this stack of 5 Harris's hawks
That's
on
crazy.
top of a cactus.
This is really making me feel like if this bird were maybe twice as large as it is, that I should really be worried for my safety.
Yeah.
Because they're so smart.
Yeah, well, if there's like 5 of them, they'd be like, maybe I could take down a human.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 They're just this close to having a union.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had never heard of birds hunting in packs.
It's pretty
'Cause
neat.
that's a whole new level of social behavior
Yeah.
where you've got hierarchies. And,
And actually, the one on the bottom is the lowest on the hierarchy. The one on the top is the best. Got the best perch.
that
Best seat in the house.
that is exactly what you would think.
Yeah.
It's metaphorical
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actual.
Yeah.
Hara, thank you very much for coming and visiting with us on this episode of SciShow Talk Show. And you, Jessi, as well.
Thank you.
This was very cool.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Thank you for joining us here on the SciShow Talk Show, and thank you to Nick for being here as well. We will see you next time.